Let's talk about replacing a pressure-reducing valve. Your pressure-reducing valve, or PRV, may be mounted in a wall, like this, behind some plaster, or it might be under the stairs in a more accessible place. This is a pressure-reducing valve mounted under the stairs. This is the vertical white pipe is the water main coming into the unit. There's a unit shutoff valve, then the pressure-reducing valve, and all the water supplied to the plumbing in this unit passes through that pressure-reducing valve. Its purpose is to take the high incoming line pressure from the water main, which might be 80 or 100 or even more pounds per square inch, and reduce it to a steady 50 pounds per square inch, regardless of the amount of usage or the incoming water main pressure. We can check whether the pressure is being regulated by using a water pressure gauge, like this one. We can attach the gauge to a hose bib. Turn on the water. And we see here that the water pressure is 40 pounds per square inch. Here we are at another unit. We've attached the pressure gauge, cracked the valve open, the pressure is over 70 psi. So let's look at what it's going to take to replace this. We're going to need a replacement valve. This is a Watts LFN 45 BM1-DUS. It's a lead-free replacement for the valves that were originally installed. And here's the valve. Now this is a valve with fittings attached to it. So this is what connects it to the plumbing. It's called a union. Here's the valve itself. Same thing on the other side. Remove the union. This part of the union is already part of the unit plumbing, so we don't have to replace that. We only have to replace the valve itself. The valve does have a sealing gasket that goes in this little groove, and we'll want to make sure that the gasket is in place when we install the replacement valve. Also very important, this valve is marked with an arrow. That's the direction the water flows. The water has to be installed so the water flows from the water main into your unit. So before we install this valve, we're going to have to remove the old valve, and before we remove the old valve, we'll want to shut off the water at the water main, isolate the heating and hot water system so that it doesn't get affected, and drain as much of the water out of the cold water line as we can, before we open the union fitting. There will, of course, be some water that's left in the lines, and we should be prepared with a bucket and probably an old towel or something. Okay, so let's isolate the hot water system. Probably somewhere near your heating unit, you have a main shutoff valve. This is the connection from the cold water supply into the water heater tank, which covers the domestic hot water and the radiant heating system. This is a gate valve on my unit. It takes quite a few turns to shut it off, but it does shut off. Here we are at the plumbing under the stairs again. And we have shut off the water main, so there's no pressure coming into the unit now. But of course there is some pressure still in the lines. So we go to a faucet that's on the second story, a high position. Open the faucet and leave it open while we go down to a low-level location. Here we are back at the hose bib, which is probably the lowest faucet on our unit. We'll open that, and that will let water drain by gravity. We left the upstairs faucet open so air can come in while this water is all draining out. Here we are, back under the stairs with our bucket and our wrenches and ready to go. We can use a towel to make sure the joints are completely dry, and then when we come back and look at them later, we'll notice if there's any moisture that's developed. Now we can bleed off any air that remains in the line. And check the new pressure reading. Here's the moment of truth. The pressure gauge is reading 40 psi. We can also bleed out any air that accumulated up on this. Let the water run from the faucet till it stops sputtering. Alright, we have returned to the scene of the crime, and we see no sign of water leaks. That's excellent news. Okay, now don't forget to open the cold water supply. So here we have the old valve. Outlet side, inlet side. We can see that there's a few scraps of plastic plumbing that got in there. But they're caught by the strainer, so those probably aren't a serious problem with the valve. Let's open it up. So we can remove these 4 screws, pop off the bonnet. Lots of brass here. Spring. Looks like this might have to be unscrewed. We can get a wrench on here. And this diaphragm looks like it ought to come off. And looks like that valve body should unscrew. In fact, with the right wrench, it will unscrew. And here is the troublesome valve. So down here by my thumb is the valve seat. This plug is supposed to come up and close against that shiny metal ring. Which doesn't seem to want to focus, but so this is supposed to go up and down, and it seems to be stuck solid. I cannot make that move with my finger. Well, I have now managed to push the valve stem up by wiggling it with that screwdriver slot and pushing on it really hard. But now it won't go down. So I would say the situation is fairly clear. This valve has gotten probably a little bit of corrosion in there. Its friction is way up. It was not responding to the pressure. It was just letting the incoming line pressure come straight through to the unit plumbing, which is not a great thing. But it's all better now.